What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I've got a bit of a discussion for you guys about something that was actually revealed in the announcement from the other day when they announced the delay of Season 1. And there was some news within that actual announcement that I think got overshadowed by the delay, because obviously we were all a little bit disappointed about the delay and just generally the state of the game at the moment. But yeah, there was actually some pretty decent and pretty significant news within that I just don't think anyone is really talking about. Before we get into it, if you guys are new to the channel, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Despite the state of Battlefield 2042 at the moment, there is going to be plenty more content on the channel covering the game. So if you guys are interested in the game in general and just keeping up to date with all the news, then definitely hit that subscribe button. Now anyway, like I said, in the actual announcement for the delay of Season 1, there was actually quite a bit of information about some of the stuff that they're going to be working on in the next couple of months leading up to the start of Season 1, and because of obviously the bad news of the delay, I think it got overshadowed quite a bit. So I'm going to just go into detail about what exactly I'm talking about, because like I said, I don't think a lot of people actually realized that this was mentioned in the announcement. In the blog post where they were sort of talking about what they're going to be changing and what we can expect to see in upcoming updates, they actually mentioned pretty subtly here that we have a team analyzing specialists and working on them. We're not quite ready to talk about actions that we'll be taking, but as soon as we are, you'll hear from us. Now that right there to me says that they are actually sort of taking on some information and feedback about the specialist system and essentially figuring out whether it is actually the best way to go. And then if they do decide that they do still want to stick with the specialist system, there is actually a chance that they're going to kind of change the way that it works. Just how that is, we're not 100% sure just yet. Like I said, they're not quite ready to talk about the actions that we're taking, but for me personally, this is actually a really good sign, and this is probably one of, if not the single biggest thing that I think most people have had an issue with since the launch of the game, is essentially the removal of the class system and the addition of the specialist system. So the fact that they've kind of mentioned they are, taking on feedback about that and actually considering changing the way that it works, that is some actually pretty massive news for me personally. Now, one of the biggest sort of talking points around the specialist system in terms of how people think they can be fixed is that a lot of people in the community have kind of been talking about maybe locking gadgets to specific specialists. Obviously, even though the class system isn't in the game currently, there is technically still a class system. For example, Falk and Angel, they both come under the support class, whereas someone like Casper, for example, comes onto the recon class. So the classes are actually still there, it's just that they're not really being utilized at the moment. And how I personally think they're actually going to go about this, again, take this with a grain of salt. I don't know any actual information on this. I'm only guessing this just because they said they're going to be working on it, and I think they will end up changing it, considering they're changing other stuff in the game that we've all been sort of crying about since launch. So the way that I think they're going to go about it is probably locking certain gadgets to those classes. For example, maybe only the support class can use the medic crate and stuff like that. Maybe only like the engineer class can use any explosives like the M5 or the C5 or anything like that. And personally, I do think that is actually the best way to go about it. It seems like it's essentially a middle ground between the specialist system and the class system. And so anyway, that is just speculation on what they're actually going to do. I have no idea whether that's going to happen or not, but I do personally think that's the best way of going about it. And regardless of how they do go about it, just the fact that they've kind of mentioned that, we haven't got any information yet, but we are looking into the specialist system. To me, that is a pretty big piece of information that I think we all kind of overlooked, and rightly so. We're all pretty annoyed with the way that the announcement went, where, the main focal point of that announcement was the delay of Season 1, which is obviously very frustrating. So I think it's fair enough that we all kind of overlooked it, but now that the dust has kind of settled on that announcement, I thought this was actually worth just sort of bringing to everyone's attention again, because yeah, for me personally, this is a pretty big sort of change that they're willing to make, and hopefully they do get it right. Hopefully they listen to our feedback, and at the very least just sort of find that middle ground between the specialists and the class system. Now, not only did they talk about the specialist system, but they did actually talk about the map design as well. Now, a lot of people obviously have a fair few issues with the way that the maps are designed in 2042. Obviously, a lot of them are way too big for starters. Secondly, they are pretty open in a lot of areas. And then third, and at least for me personally, this is probably my biggest issue with them, is that they don't look or feel as if we're actually part of essentially World War III. You take a look at Kaleidoscope and it looks like it's essentially a regular city. There's no real actual war-torn elements to that map. It's just exactly as it would look like if you were playing The Sims or some shit. So there's a lot of issues at the moment with the map design, and they did actually mention in this post as well that they were going to be considering some changes to the maps, which I think is just as big, if not more important, than the specialist system. To quote what they said in the blog post, they said, "Later this month, this process will kick off with one of our key focus areas, map design. We want to outline to you our vision for how we're going to approach and factor into our new maps enhancements to the gameplay experience by addressing feedback on openness and lack of cover in key areas." Now, what I will say about that sort of little paragraph paragraph there is that they didn't actually mention whether this was for the current maps in the game or whether this is only going to be for maps that they're working on in the future. It does seem at face value like this is talking about the maps that are currently in the game, because it says addressing feedback on openness and lack of cover in key areas, and obviously we don't know the lack of cover in maps that we don't know about. So it feels weird if that was talking about future content. We don't know what those maps look and feel like. So this feels like they're talking about the current maps in the game, and that will be pretty big in my opinion if they actually go and sort of revamp the maps, adding a bunch of cover and hopefully adding, you know, a bunch of fires and just debris and down choppers and stuff like that. Even using the storyline of the satellites falling down, like put some crashed satellites around the map. Just do something to add a bit more sort of life to these maps, because at the moment they just feel like a bit of an empty playground in a way, and it's just probably one of my biggest issues with the game at the moment. Now, they did say changes to our maps and core gameplay will take time, so I don't think the map change is going to come anytime soon, to be honest. I do think there's a chance that maybe some of this stuff gets done by the start of Season 1, so maybe it will happen within the next 3 to 4 months, but there is also a good chance that, you know, some of these changes will take 6 months or more, and I know when it comes to pretty much any game, map design is one of the sort of longest and most tedious elements of the game, at least when it comes to developing it anyway, so this kind of thing could take a lot of time, and yeah, until they start talking about it, we're not really going to have any idea how long it's going to take. But it does say at the start of that post, later this month, this process will kick off with one of our key focus areas, map design. So I think they're at least going to maybe start talking about that later this month, whether that's even just asking us for feedback. I'm not 100% sure what they actually mean by that, but yeah, I think that was definitely something that was once again overlooked by the community, and again, rightly so. We were all not focusing on that, to be honest, but I did think that was worth bringing that to your attention. But anyway, guys, that is essentially going to do it for this one. I'm very keen to hear what you guys think about these two little elements in the map design and the specialist system, what you guys think they might do, as well as what you guys would actually want them to do. Through the EA Creator Network, I'm actually able to get in touch with the developers myself, so be sure to leave your thoughts and, you know, your kind of wish list down in the comments, because if I see any good ideas, I can obviously pass that on to the team, and even though I do obviously have my own ideas, you guys are able to think of many awesome little elements as well. So be sure to leave your thoughts and sort of feedback down in the comments, and I'll try and do my best to pass that on to the dev team. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to leave a like down below, and if you guys are new, then definitely hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. If you want to support the content that I make here on YouTube, then do consider becoming a channel member. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you all out there on the battlefield.